Hey everyone, this is Merlin,
And I'm Helios.
and today we're going to be walking you through a Verore deck. Helios, since you made the deck, why don't you go over the individual cards and mechanics?
So, the key ideas in Verore are their decks are based around creature sacrifice, like casting a lot of spells, killing. They have the best, well, or at least the most removal of any faction in the game as well. So, killing your opponent's creatures. They also have iconic sweepers such as Merlin's Golden Mass Death over there, and yeah, Overcharged Storm. And they also have direct damage. So they're kind of like the mage in Hearthstone, or I guess kind of blue black in Magic the Gathering for anyone who's run those. So I guess in terms of the themes here, to show off the creature sacrifice, we've got some thralls, both in deck and in command. Can you find them, Merlin? Yeah, so Rita's thrall to like repeatedly get use out of sacrifice effects, and then the brutal thralls because I mean, sorry, the tormented souls because people should probably learn about them at the moment. They're quite strong. Um, and then you've got your acolyte of the deep, or sorry, what's it called? Summoner of the deep to actually sacrifice things. So yeah, Flora both has creatures that want to be sacrificed, and um, either spells or creatures that let you sacrifice. So there's that. Um, Number of spells matter. We've got a load of cheap spells like Lightning Blast, um, like Recycle and Gather Thoughts, and these can go with the Aether Acolytes to create undercosted creatures. So after you cast three spells in a game, Aether Acolyte becomes kind of the most efficient two drop in the game that doesn't require something else as well. I mean, because I guess after you've already paid its requirement. But anyway, and then you've got get siphoners, which can, if you play a load of spells in one turn, just one-shot people, which can be pretty funny. Um, Killing your opponent's creatures matters, so you guys have probably come across Verore Death Worshipper, which I mean, it's normally considered too slow, but it can snowball out of control, especially when used in conjunction with spells that kill lots of opponents' creatures. So again, Mass Death and Lightning Storm are um, the standard options here for mass sweepers, and then you have a load of targeted removal as well. The strongest being Annihilate, which is all the way in triple Cult of War to give off that impression that you really need to go deep for into the killing stuff faction for the best um, ways of killing stuff. Um, Last you get direct damage. Again, you're kind of like the mage in Hearthstone. So in this game, you can't get spells which will either kill creatures or kill the opponent themselves, but you can separately get spells that kill the opponent. So yeah, um, are we ready to show off some matches?
Yep, I'm ready. Let's hop into it.
Okay, invite me. So we've already sort of done the Flame Dawn Cult of Flora matchup on the other while discussing the Flame Dawn deck. So let's play something else. Um, I'm going to pick Genesis Industries.
Seems fair. Hmm. Now, normally with Verore, you can't really be that aggressive. I have a couple options here, but I think the one I'm going to take is to get rid of that secluded constructor right away. It can cause some problems later on when things start to get big. So we're just gonna take care of that, get rid of it. It powers up the Aether Acolyte a little bit, which is nice as well. Um, Tormented Thrall, like Helios is saying, is really good, and I will show you why next turn as soon as I'm able to sacrifice it. So he's thrown out an infected drone. I'm not even that worried because I have a tormented thrall. And we're just going to throw out a gather thoughts. It's not really going to do anything. It's just going to cycle itself, give me back my lightning blast, and make Aether Acolyte a little bit stronger. So we got the sacrifice tormented thrall. We made it into a 10-10. Matches his 10-10, so they trade. And
That
on top of all that, we get a demon.
that I was just thinking that feel when Summoner of the Deep Command does more work than a letter tinker.
um, uh, we're gonna do it like this and see how that goes. I wasn't sure if maybe he would pump it with the Aletta, um, or even possibly the Luca. So I wanted to have a blocker out to take care of that guy, just in case it didn't go my way. I'm gonna make some more flyers. We'll kill his big robot because it's big and scary. And now he has a lot of robots that are all kind of scary. And we're gonna do that. I was worried about the Luca. Unfortunately, he didn't put enough guys out for that to really be super great. I did manage to take care of two of his guys, which is something. But he has more left, which is kind of worrisome. But we're gonna keep trying to swing in. We're gonna kidnap one of them. Get some more damage in on him. Um, keep making our Aether Acolyte as big as we can. The cannon fire was pretty good for him because he got rid of my flying blockers. I'm going to shuffle out this word of command. It's not really doing a lot of work for me in this particular setup. And the laser cannon.
Yeah. So I guess that should be a note of how out of control Aether Acolyte can get. Like it did about 20 damage and eventually forced me to trade a 5-drop for it. And it was a 5-drop that could even have missed, so I was in a pretty tight spot.
So we're just going to try and get out something here. We don't want to get too far behind. He has the War Machine out, which he hasn't been using, even though his guys have been sitting back in support a couple times. I'm not sure why, but
Um, the first turn I sat back in support because I didn't want to get mass death while all your creatures were in support, and the second time I had actually attacked with everything and used a letter.
oh, maybe I'm just remembering when you played War Machine wrong
Yeah, God, such little faith.
then. But it was the pivotal moment in this game for me was the miss with the lightning storm. A lot of Verore is pretty dependent on landing your skill shots, and I missed a pretty big one of mine.
Well, I mean, you missed 3 tokens, but you still hit. Like, you took out, I guess, half a splitterbot actually isn't that good. Um, yeah. On the flip side, this is where Genesis
Genesis.
gets going. where you can get a couple of tokens and then start using things like Aletta and Luca to just make them get out of control. So I would only sort of have Luca had 1.5 cards, like one scouting mission and half a splitter bot. But yeah, like even with just sort of three artificials out from scouting mission, things can get pretty strong pretty fast.
That's one of the biggest things that Verore struggles with as well, is once the board gets into this kind of position. Um,
You could always top deck a
yeah, they are very
Aspect.
efficient at killing individual cards, but their creatures, for the most part, with the exception of Tormented Thrall slash Brute and Aether Acolyte if it gets really big, aren't particularly good at killing other creatures.
Oh, the race is on.
So I am extremely low now, and Helios, while not uh, completely safe, is still a little bit healthier than I am. He's actually pretty significantly healthier than I am. Um, there's not a lot I can do here to ensure that I win. So the idea is basically to just go for the draw. And he put enough guys into defense that I wasn't going to be able to sneak through damage there in order to win.
What do you think might be a good test now?
Let's try DOD.
Yeah, sure. I guess we can try Exiles afterwards, maybe.
Sure. Exile seems like a good last one.
I sent you an invite.
Oh,
Actually, we probably yeah, okay. I'll cancel. Resend me one. And we're doing DoD. Okay.
this is a decent opening hand. Um, we're just gonna throw out the turn one, gather thoughts, just to get our Aether Acolyte a little bit stronger. And on our initiative, we're gonna take care of this Daude. If you guys may have remembered from the Flame Dawn showcase, the Daude can buff his guys and make his whole field really big and nasty, and that's not something I want to have to deal with later, so we're gonna kill him now while we can.
Oh, come on.
And the Tormented Thrall is obviously quite strong, as everyone remembers, I'm sure, from the last game.
So DoD has a lot more problems with a style like Colts than it does with Flame Dawn. So your command zone's no longer safe, and they no longer just are forced to rush you with low toughness creatures that you can efficiently deal with. Instead, either I'm dealing with no creatures while they just burn me out with Siphon Structure and such, or I'm dealing with 10/10s for 4 mana, which are a bit better again.
And since we do have a slight advantage here, I'm just going to keep pushing in, trying to kill something every turn if I can, and doing as much damage to him in the meantime as I possibly can.
You gotta get those candid head of research beats, right? Oh, really? Another tormented troll. Come on.
So he's dealing some morale damage to me, which, as Cult of Verore, you don't really care about that much because you don't get that many creatures out that will end up losing morale for you. So it's not as great a concern as it is in other decks, potentially.
Why am I even bothering to dodge? I mean, it's not like Lightning Storm zone locks at the moment anyway, so
Alright, so he has a good bit of creatures out. Um, and we're in an interesting position here, so I'm gonna get out some guys that do some stuff.
oh oh no, I was actually thinking of bringing the chefs out. That makes me sad.
And the Demon of Fear is a mass stumble effect, which lets us attack with some more guys that we otherwise wouldn't be safe attacking with. It's not entirely safe because he has vigilance creatures that could pop out, so we are going to keep the Kidnapper back. Or, actually, the Kidnapper didn't kidnap anything particularly important, so we will just attack with him.
Oh, what? That's still an 8/8? Cool.
Hmm. And what we did was we forced him into a
No.
position where he had to defend, um, or he wasn't safe not defending, and then we mass deathed. And we had to kill a lot of our own guys to do it. But overall, it was beneficial for us.
Yeah, nicely played. I didn't see that coming. Oh, really? Oh, right. Okay, fair enough. Nice mass death.
So a big part of the thing with Mass Death is the zone locking of your own creatures. And a lot of times, a newer Verore player will give away when they're going to Mass Death by not committing creatures to the board or committing creatures to the board in strange ways that they wouldn't do if they were planning on Mass Deathing or if they weren't planning on Mass Deathing. And you can basically see ahead of time what they're going to do because of that. So you have to kind of play in a natural way when you have the mass deaths and pretend you don't have it if you're ever going to expect your opponent to fall for one. You also want to make sure that it's going to hit, so you have to force your opponent into, okay, they have to attack with everything this turn, or they have to defend with multiple things this turn, which is kind of what I failed to do in my Lightning Storm in Game 1, which works similarly. My opponent didn't have to commit anything to the board that turn, and because of that, when he didn't, I kind of whiffed the Lightning Storm a little bit and lost 3 cards to not really produce that much of anything. So this hand is fine. We're going to get started right away with a Blast to the Ritual Master.
Oh, come on. Every single game here, you've taken out my command zone.
Well, you had initiative on turn 1. You could have just used it, and it would have lived. um, and we'll get the beats in. No.
Oh yeah.
No.
Oh whoa, that didn't generate a token. I thought it did. I mean, it's not meant to, for the record, guys, but it did a little while ago.
Strange interactions are strange, so. So, he's got more guys out on the board than we do, which again is one of these kind of situations that we get into, and we have to be as efficient as possible with what we're going to do here to try and get the game back.
These gambles, though.
Yeah, those gamblers. Those gamblers. So the chalice is gonna create some problems for us because we need the card advantage as much as possible.
Next turn should be fun for you.
I get to keep 1 card. It's
I
just
think I think you get to keep 0 actually.
Oh, yeah, you're right. No, I got to keep one total,
Oh, oh, okay, you had 4. So you had
ultimately.
less. Oh, oh right, you candidated. Okay, fair. Okay, nice. That's what I was waiting for. So you're out of cards now, so you can't have well, you could draw mass removal, but you'd have to actually draw it.
Yeah, it's a very not good position for me to be in.
Chalice of Madness, yo.
And that was enough damage to do it. So to recap the Verore faction, a lot of the games you win are going to come down to good AoE mass removal, and a lot of the games you lose are going to come down to a lack of good AoE mass removal, either through not drawing it or just not landing it correctly.
On the flip side, because people know this, it's sometimes at least possible to win without ever having to cast a mass death by just looking like you're going to cast one every turn, so your opponent can't commit. Like, so in that particular game, as Exiles, I won it, but I could have done about 60 more damage that game if I hadn't been playing around mass death constantly.
So there's a lot of mind games playing with and against Cult of Verore that come into play, but um, yeah, you need to be able to outthink and outplay the other person, and it can be really tricky, especially when you're dealing with someone with 3 mass deaths and 3 lightning storms, and they have the potential to play one every single turn. So it can be frustrating for especially newer players to play against. But if you persevere and you can figure out what your opponent's going to be doing, you can make the Verore player feel like they're throwing cards at air basically by dodging all their stuff.